Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you an opportunity for Riot to capitalize pretty hard, kill a couple of birds with maybe one stone. So, it has been revealed to us that in patch 13.0, initiator cooldowns for signature abilities will be going from a minute to 50 seconds. Um, with that, people have been theorizing for some reason that Tejo's guided salvos are going to come back to being rechargeable. I'm gonna be honest, if they didn't come back to being rechargeable at 60, I don't think they're coming back to being rechargeable at 50. Nor do I really think I want that. However, there is one thing that I think that they could do with Tejo to push Tejo further, and just the overall state of the game, to fill a niche of overall things that are missing. That being, if we make Tejo the first initiator to have a true drone that can recharge. I think there's a perfect opportunity here for Riot to just, hey, instead of us waiting for them to finally release another scan initiator with a drone, um, or fucking a scan initiator in general, Riot, hey, hey, buddy, you could just recharge the stealth drone. Why would you do that? Well, I think that this philosophy of keeping it so that there's agents that aren't viable as a solo in their role is kind of hindering the game in the long term because whenever you randomly decide to kill something else, uh, it just goes insane with some things, i.e., hey, let's just randomly take out most initiators and sentinels in one fell swoop. And it's like, oh no, these agents that have been in the game forever are causing a problem. Um, yeah, it just throws things off balance. So instead of making duelist the only self-sufficient role, I think that there should be other self-sufficient roles. And you see this the most with initiators and controllers, who you don't really see us going for double sentinel, and we only go for double duelist when controller and initiator are not worth doing duo. And even then, you'll probably still see double controller when there's double initiator. That's happened for quite a bit of time in this game's history. But coming back to Tejo, many people don't see him as solo viable. Well, that's because he does not have information that you want out of your initiator. And the only piece of information is the stealth drone, right? Like you go, oh, okay, let's see what's going on here. Boom. That's about it. Now, you've given it the functionality of doing a scan ping kind of situation. Instead of a snapshot, there's a little scan thing to let you know, much in the same way that you've done with the recons, well, the scan abilities. So at this point, you might as well make it so that Teo can at least consistently get information from certain angles to help out. It was a bit of a surprise that the stun got damage on it, which filled the niche of, hey, I need more things in the game that can break setups, right? Instead of me needing to use my guided salvos, which I would like to use to clear corners or play post plant, we went for, hey, how about the stun that, you could toss out wherever, don't really care. Does enough damage to break some things. And I think that was actually a pretty good change. And I'm not saying that we need Tejo to be that much in the rise again, but I do think that this is a perfect opportunity for, hey, let's make the first rechargeable drone. Now, I say rechargeable drone, and I also say true drone, because true drones, to me, are something you can see out of. This is my own classification. I don't know if there is an actual classification, but things like Silva's Owl drone and Sky's Trailblazer, right? We're looking at, oh, I can actually see what's going on, even if I didn't make direct contact or, catch the scent like Phage Prowler. And you'd also argue that there is a drone that recharges already. Kind of. With Gecko, you have Wingman. However, Wingman functions more similar to a boombot. That's fine, I suppose. However, I think that that isn't the most desirable thing, considering I want to usually take a drone to get information down a long angle, right? I usually want a drone to go about there. And I think that we are slowly learning that there's agents and there's map design that, or at least, hey, at one point in time they said that their philosophy should be that agents should be able to be played on a map, regardless of what agent it is, really, which is why we have the reworked Breeze, where it's like, yeah, the only controller that was worth a damn was Viper. And instead of needing your one person to play Viper every time you load up Breeze, even though it might be ranked, right? Or, well, ranked where you just like, alright, everybody just has to run it down. Or in pro play, where, oh no, what's going on here? Everybody's running solo Viper because that's the only thing that could cover those clear angles. So, by shifting the power out of just what the maps look like, I also have a suggestion for breach, excuse me, that I just put out. You can start shifting power back to the agents to make them more viable on more maps. Now, I am of the opinion that Tejo is pretty viable, well, fairly viable on most maps. I do think that Tejo is undervalued, but I think that comes with the fact that you can't reliably solo Tejo. Now, you'd say, but Monster, that single information didn't matter that much when we were playing Tejo Breach. Which was true, there was also other ways to obtain information, cough cough, looking at you duelist. But, on top of that, with recharging missiles, you clear the corners that you needed to check with information anyway, right? So, you can actually take that time to, alright, I need to stun this angle, and I need to clear out this angle because both of these will come back. And then it goes into the thing that I really need to find out, information wise, can be used, i.e., the drone. So, um, it's a bit of a situation. It's a bit, but I don't think that and let's be real about what a cooldown refresh actually is. It's the bar that, or the limitation that keeps you from throwing out two things at once, right? Um, Previously, I've just thrown out the idea, fuck it, what if KO got a second knife and just did what Sky does with flashes, with the guiding light. There's like there's information and there's a second effect, but you'll get one back. KO, a little bit more unique. You could chain that so that the opponent doesn't have a way to get into the space for what, 12 seconds or 14, something like that. Hell, is it 16? It's 8 seconds, whatever. So I could understand not doing it there, right? And to that extent, I could understand why you don't just go, all right, here's a second stealth drone right off the rip, because similarly, it would be pretty interesting to be like, oh, I check this way, and then I just, take a couple of steps back, go back here, check this way at the same time. That'd be a little bit much, and it does have a suppress, so, I'd guess the same argument could be made as why you can't necessarily give KO two knives too, right? But giving a cooldown gives you essentially just a second one, right? Looking at 50 seconds, probably only going to be a second drone because there's not too many ways that you're going to use this off the rip. Like if you are defense and you want to check long, maybe, right? But if you're offense, you're not getting into a spot immediately as the barriers drop to check. Maybe if you're here, right? And this is just bind, right? This is bind as an example, but you're not using it off rip and taking commanding space with it. And then reliably in a position to go, all right, I would need a second one here, right? I think that giving it a cooldown gives you the option to get a second one back, but you still have to be smart about how you use it. Because, frankly, there's a good chance that you might not even get a second one depending on what the cooldown is and when you get to the position. So, I think giving a cooldown to Stealth Drone, this guy here, uh, could do Tejo and the game overall some good because now you have an agent that can compete without making it necessarily a scan, but it can compete with scan, scan, other bit of information instead of leaving one, two, three, four that just, hey, I only get taken when there's one of these three. I think instead we need to shift the balance from take one of these three to use one of the four to take one of these four and then maybe use one of these three. But that's my opinion, and that's the option that I think Riot could do right now. So, hey, if you like the video, like it, got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.